The film opens with the monument of a deceased football player named Brandon. Meanwhile, his older brother Marty has trouble attending Brandon's funeral that's held in his college's gym. He walks out and looks upon a cardboard cutout of Brandon, which gives him a flashback of Brandon active in the field. The monument builder shows up to pay his condolences. The scenes are then rewinded to a decade earlier, where Brandon is a 12-year-old chubby kid getting baptized in the town's river. Marty, being 17 years older than him, is seen proudly taking pictures of Brandon. When Brandon shares with his mother that everyone bullies him for being fat, she hands him a book about pilgrimage and teaches him to preach the Lord and religion. Later that day, Marty scolds Brandon for not moving a muscle, but instantly softens up when Brandon confidently claims to become a professional football player when he grows up. A few days later, Brandon joins his school's football team as a substitute, while Marty and his mother take place in the audience. That day, a player gets injured, so they let Brandon fill in. He does well with the running, but ends up grabbing his opponent's foot, who has the ball. The coach yells at him and sends him back to the bench, where Marty lets him know he's done a good job. There, a high school coach approaches him and pats him on the back for trying, and lets him know he's counting on him to play on his high school team in the future. When the game ends and the family walks out, Marty spots his father waiting to pick Brandon up for a day out and claiming that Brandon should know who his father is. Marty becomes concerned since their father is an alcoholic, but the mother lets him take Brandon for a day. The two bond over playing guitar and singing, but Brandon catches him being drunk at night, so he gets scared and calls Marty, who drives Brandon back home. Time cuts to Brandon's teenagehood, where he's seen playing football in his high school under the coach that once approached him on the bench. He sees potential in Brandon, so he puts in a good word for him to the Arkansas Razorbacks coach, Bender. This makes Brandon overexcited because playing on that team has been his dream since day one. Hence, Brandon takes Marty to see the Razorbacks' latest football match and has the honor of shaking hands with Coach Bender. After the game, Marty talks to Bender on Brandon's behalf. Bender asks for Brandon's weight and immediately rejects him, saying he's less than 300 pounds. Though he suggests that Brandon can join as a walk-on, meaning someone who pays to join the team rather than getting selected via a scholarship. Brandon goes back to playing for his high school team. One day, his coach shows up at their home to personally deliver Brandon's college scholarship from Arkansas Tech, but he tears it in half, saying he only wants to attend Razorback. Soon comes the day where he graduates high school, where Marty tries to knock some sense in Brandon regarding their financial situation. This changes his mind, so he goes home to tape the torn scholarship letter and accept it, but his mother shows up with the news that she's taken a second mortgage to pay for his tuition, and that he's going to Arkansas Razorback. However, she can only afford 1 year, so Brandon promises to work hard and get a scholarship by the end of the year to sustain his degree. The next morning, his family and coach excitedly bid him farewell and tells him to drive safe to his dream college. In the present timeline, Marty sits with the monument builder in the field while the funeral is being arranged. There, a high school team shows up with a truck full of flower pots, which they put in the middle of the field in Brandon's memory. The scenes are then shifted to Brandon's first day in college in 1994, where he's weighed on the scale among other teammates and is made fun of for being fat. Bender also passes rude remarks on his weight since he wasn't expecting Brandon to put on so much fat instead of muscle to gain weight. On his first day of practice, Marty sneakily watches him from the audience and takes pictures. Brandon keeps tripping or somehow making a fool of himself throughout the practice, but Bender keeps motivating and coaching him personally, which bothers Ford, their elder coach, who wants Bender to shape the already good players. When the time to play a match comes up, Bender casts aside Brandon and a few other walk-ons, but Brandon becomes disheartened and tells Bender he won't get a scholarship this way. Bender bluntly tells him he's never getting a scholarship anyway. When the game ends, Bender approaches Brandon alone and tells him he's proud of Brandon for making it this far. All of this is overheard by Marty from the audience, who feels truly sad for his brother. When Brandon goes back to his dorm room, he finds his teammates there, bullying him for not drinking and partying with them. His main bully, Ward, tries to mess around with his stuff, but Brandon politely tells him not to and leaves to see his mother. He devastatingly asks his mother why he's so fat, but his mother cheers him up and strikes up a religious conversation to boost his lowered morale. He returns to college, where he subdues a scholarship student during practice, not knowing it's against the rules. Bender yells at him and says hurtful stuff, which makes him walk away. Bender comes after him, feeling sorry, and tells him to work hard on losing fat so he can gain muscle in order to actually play in the game. Brandon follows his words and begins his weight loss journey. He starts off by waking up early in the morning and making his prayers. He hits the gym and practices with Bender in the field. Marty also helps him often by making him run the stairs in the audience. Once he reaches his goal weight, Bender pits him against Ward, his biggest bully, in practice, and tells him to only push him away to check if he has the strength or not. Brandon easily pushes him away each time, due to which he gains respect among his teammates. That evening, his roommate invites him to a dinner party, where Ward is also present. He secretly orders the waitress to put alcohol in his milkshake to take revenge, knowing Brandon strictly abstains from it. When Brandon finds out about this through the waiter, he immediately tells his roommate to take him away. He ends up going to the field to run in the rain in order to get alcohol out of his system. His roommate also scolds Ward and runs with Brandon, which causes him to join the rest too. A few days later, Brandon joins the Razorbacks in their annual match in front of a huge crowd, but doesn't play. After the match, Brandon's roommate tells him to pack his stuff and go to Bender's office as he has news for him. He becomes sad that this is where he part ways, but instead Bender gives him full scholarship for the next 3 years, so he immediately calls Marty and lets everyone in his family know that he got in. Hence, everyone celebrates on both ends of the phone. In the present, Marty is joined by Brandon's high school coach, who's having a hard time believing Brandon is gone. The scenes spin back to Brandon's life, 2 years after being selected. He performs poorly in the game due to his vision getting blurry. When he shares this with Bender, he takes him to the eye specialist and gets him glasses that are strapped to his head. Everyone in the recess room makes fun of him, but he doesn't let that get in his way. Sadly, they lose the game, after which Brandon is called back home because his father is dying of cancer. When he meets him for the last time, his father wishes for Brandon to make it big in the NFL and help his mother financially, which Marty thinks is a long shot. After his father's funeral, Brandon returns to college, only to find out Bender is being replaced by a new coach, whose plan is to rebuild the team by including freshmen and ditching seniors. Luckily, one night, the new coach catches him training alone in the dark and strikes up a conversation, in which Brandon openly communicates about his concerns and convinces him to give his batch another chance to win. Brandon finally steps up and forces his friends to move into a townhouse, where he keeps waking them up in the middle of the nights to practice and be their best selves. In the upcoming match, Brandon's hard work finally pays off when he wins the game and becomes a star. He poses in front of the scoreboard with his friends and makes Marty snap them. In a time-lapse, we see Brandon actively playing for Razorbacks, hitting the gym, studying for his master's degree, and starting a Bible book reading club with Bender and his friends. As they win more and more, they become famous in the news articles and on television. After their last game, we find out through his interview that he and the Razorbacks are going to compete with the national football team in Tennessee. At first, they're winning by 2 points, but in the end, a boy from their team falls and loses the ball to Tennessee players, due to which they lose the match in the end. Brandon takes the blame for tripping him, but the guy doesn't take offense in that. Brandon's high school coach shows up to shower his love on him. Brandon returns to his hometown, where he finds out through the radio that he's been given the title of an All-American, which he celebrates as a big deal. Back in the present, a kid from the flower arranging task hands Brandon's signed ball to Marty and asks him to join the funeral. Marty refuses to come and sends him away. The scenes are once again rolled back to 1999, where Brandon is announced as being drafted to the NFL. Finally, his big victory. During his practice, he thinks he's finally earned something without hustling. But his new coach reminds him of all the hard work and determination that led him to this point, and the fact that good things happen to good people. Up next, Brandon breaks the news of not attending the event in which his team is being rewarded with a division championship ring because of him. He admits to Bender and his friend that he's longed for home ever since he got here, and that he has promised to take his mother to church before he heads for the NFL. He hits the road with memories of his parents. Back in the present, the monument guy lashes out at Marty for believing in God, who took his brother from him despite being a devoted follower of God. Marty ends his conversation with him and gets called by his mother, where he debates why bad things happen to good people while the evil thrives and mourns Brandon's loss. but his mother tells him to have a bigger perspective on this. He sits alone and recalls the time he went to his mother's house to visit church with Brandon, but instead was met with a number of police cars and a crying mother, revealing that Brandon died in a car accident. In the film's end, Marty looks at the flower arrangement from afar, which says "We trust." He looks at it as if Brandon's signaling him, so he runs back to the funeral and joins everyone singing his favorite song about the Lord. Thank you for being a part of our video. If these tales of mystery and intrigue sent shivers down your spine, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more bone-chilling narratives. Stay tuned. And until next time, stay captivated.